What's going on, guys? Welcome to another dungeon tank build video. Today I'm going to be going through my Warden dungeon tank build. The Warden is a really nice class to play for dungeon content. Sustain wise, it's really strong thanks to a number of skills and passives that it has access to. It also has the minor toughness buff for you and your group, which will increase the max health of everyone, which is another really nice benefit to it. And on top of that, it also has expansive frost cloak, which is going to give major resolve to you and your entire group as well. The Warden tank is also a really strong option for those that don't have a healer in their group. The reason for this is because of the recoveries that it gives to the group through its passives and its skills, as well as the amount of healing that you actually output just by healing yourself. You're also giving a lot of healing to your group as well. Even if you do have a healer in your group, it still is a really nice option. It's incredibly fun to play. Just as a reminder, if you do watch and enjoy my videos, please do leave a like on the videos and also consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, please leave a comment if you have any questions for me on anything tank or PvE related. Right, so let's get into the build. So first of all, we'll have a look at race. So for my Warden, I am an Imperial. The benefit of an Imperial is we get health, we get stam, and then most importantly, the main reason for choosing an Imperial is we get the red diamond passive, which is going to reduce the cost of all of our abilities by 6%. And this overall does make quite a good difference to our sustain, so it is a really nice option for race. Other options would be Nord. Nord would give us a bit more ulti regen, and it would also give us slightly higher resistances compared to that of an Imperial. That would be probably on par in terms of choice for race. So Imperial if you want to go more sustain route, or Nord if you want to go more down the sort of tanky resistance route. However, for dungeons, the extra resistances in my opinion are not needed, and I think the Imperial would probably be overall the better choice. For Mundus stone, we are running the Atronach. As I say in almost every build video I do, this is generally the Mundus stone I always run. It's just going to give us a nice boost to our mag recovery, so it does help overall just sort of balance the build and give us some nice mag sustain. For the consumables, food first of all, we are running Bewitched Sugar Skulls. There is a slightly cheaper option to Bewitched Sugar Skulls, which is Longfin Pasty with melon sauce. They both basically do the same thing. They're giving you max health, mag and stam. However, Bewitched Sugar Skulls is also giving us the health recovery element as well. There's not a great difference in cost between the two, so I would advise running Bewitched Sugar Skulls. They are generally the food that I always run. The other option that you have for food is, instead of going into a max resource food, which gives you max health, stam and mag, you can instead run food that's going to focus more on your recoveries. One like Jewels of Misrule or the Smoked Bear Hunch. Again, the only difference between the two is that the Smoked Bear Hunch is going to give you the health recovery as well. However, the price difference is much more significant between this and Jewels of Misrule, so the cheaper option is to go with this one. You're not going to have as high max stam and mag, but you are going to get more recovery overall. So if you prefer to play like that, then that's your choice. Either works absolutely fine, and it's down to preference. For the potions, we're running the Restoration Pots. You can either use the crown ones if you have them, or if you don't, you can use the player crafted ones. They both basically do pretty much the same thing. They're going to give us health, mag and stam back immediately, and then they're also going to give us the stam, mag and health recovery as well. So it's going to help our recoveries, and it's going to give us a nice bit of our resources back as soon as we use one. For the gear sets, so my first 5-piece set is Powerful Assault. As I always say in these dungeon builds, I definitely recommend this set for dungeons. It's a set that's backbarred, so you'll run it on the ice staff and then the jewellery. And what it does is, whenever you use a assault ability in combat, you're going to give everyone in your group, most importantly your DDs, some extra weapon and spell damage. And this is just going to increase our burst damage throughout our fights that we're taking part in the dungeons. So it's a really nice set to run. The other 5-piece set that we're running is Turning Tide. This is basically whenever you block, you get a little buff called Flowing Water, and then when you bash while you have that buff, you then apply major vulnerability to everyone kind of in front of you, so all of the enemies in front of you. Major vulnerability is a really nice buff. It's going to increase the damage that the enemies take by 10%. So yeah, it's a really nice set to run. The monster set that I'm running is Archdruid. Now, if you have a necromancer in your group, you can probably swap this out. Archdruid's doing the same thing as Turning Tide. It's given the major vulnerability buff. However, instead of activating it with a bash, you are activating it with a heavy attack. The idea is that while Turning Tide is on its cooldown, so you can only use this every 15 seconds, and in that sort of cooldown, that's where you use the heavy attack for Archdruid, so we have better uptime on our major vulnerability. If you have a necro in the group, I would probably drop Archdruid, and you can run, for instance, Magma Incarnate. However, if you have a Arcanist in the group as well that's running Rune of Colourless Pool, Zenas Empowering Disc, then you're already going to have the Minor Courage buff that we would run Magma Incarnate for, so there's other options as well besides Archdruid and Magma. I will put some other options in the description, and I'll also put some more options for 5-piece sets. One alternative that I did want to mention, instead of Powerful Assault, if you don't have a healer in your group, a nice substitute for this is to run Olorima. It's just going to give major courage to your DDs, which is again another really nice buff, and it is a good replacement for Powerful Assault if you don't have a healer in the group. I also personally find that Warden is a great choice for tank when you don't have a healer, because of the sort of passive healing that you're putting out there just by healing yourself. So in terms of traits, enchantments, weights, etc., and also to mention that I am running the Master Sword and Board on this set as well. Very briefly, this is whenever you're dealing damage with Puncher, your front bar Taunt, you are going to heal yourself and also get physical and spell resistances as well. So this is kind of always a front bar set that we want to run if we have a set that we can back bar like Powerful Assault. You only need this on one bar because you slot the Assault ability on your back bar, and that allows us to run the Master Sword and Board on the front bar. So for the traits, enchants and the weights, I'm running a decisive front bar one-handed weapon. This is just going to help us get our ultimate back a little bit quicker. It's generally the trait that I'll run on the front bar. For the back bar, I'm running an infused staff with Crusher, and this is pretty standard for our ice staff. All this is doing is reducing the resistances of the opponent that we apply it to, and this is going to help our DDs get to the penetration cap for whatever we're attacking. So this is generally what we're going to run, Crusher infused. For the body pieces, I'm running 3 reinforced, so I'm running that on the chest, the legs and the feet as well. And then the other body pieces, so the hands, the waist, the shoulders, the helmet and the shield, I'm running a combination of sturdy and divines. And in this particular case, I'm running 2 divines and 3 sturdy. The divines is going to help boost our Archdruid Monster Set, giving us a bit more mag recovery, and the sturdy is just going to reduce the amount of stamina that we're using when we're blocking. So it kind of balances our stamina and our mag sustain a little bit. For the weights, I'm running 5 heavy, and then I'm running 1 medium and 1 light. So the medium piece is on the helmet and the light is on the shoulders. For the jewellery, I'm running the Powerful Assault jewellery as I mentioned before, and I'm running the infused trait on this. The reason I'm running infused over harmony is because in dungeons I find that I get kind of less synergies really than in some trial situations. Because of the lack of synergies, I don't find harmony benefits me that much all the time. So for that reason we're running infused, and we have the try recovery glyphs on as well. This is just going to again overall sort of balance our sustain, giving us recovery into health, stam and mag. The only other one I didn't mention was the glyph for my front bar weapon, and I'm just running absorb stamina on this. This is just to gradually sort of help our stamina sustain a little bit as well. Moving on to the champion points, I'm running the 4 mitigation CP. This is normally what I run. You can occasionally drop one of these in certain fights. For instance, if you're not taking any area of effect damage in a particular boss fight, then you can drop it. But as an all-rounder kind of static CP, this works really well because what we're doing is we're mitigating all 4 types of damage. So direct damage, damage over time, single target damage, and then area of effect damage as well. So this is just reducing all the different types of damage that we're going to take on a tank, which for obvious reasons is very nice. For the red CP, the 2 that I'm generally running most of the time is Boundless Vitality and Fortified. So this is going to give us a little bit more max health, and it's going to give us some resistances as well. The other 2 are kind of optional. We're not running things like Bastion because we're not getting too many sort of shields on a Warden tank. At the moment I have Celerity slotted, which is going to sort of help our movement speed overall, which is quite a nice one to run. If you don't really care about movement speed and you can stand still for a particular boss fight, then Brace and Anchor is a great option. This is going to reduce the damage you take by increasing your block mitigation. It's kind of the opposite to Celerity. Expert Evasion is quite a nice one because you get a free roll dodge every 30 seconds. And then you've got other ones that will help your sustain, like sustain by suffering or rejuvenation as well. So moving on to the skills. The skill setup that I currently have is a static setup, so you can run this through ad pools and you can run it through bosses. I will mention a couple of things at the end that you can swap out if you want to for certain situations. So first of all, we're running Silver Leash. This is our ad control skill. So this is going to pull ads to us. It's just going to speed up the ad packs that you do throughout the dungeon. Enchanted Growth. This is a nice Warden skill. It's going to give minor intellect and minor endurance to us and our allies that we apply it to. So we're going to help their mag and stam recovery. It is also a nice heal as well. So we're generally going to be running this. Fetch Your Infection. This isn't always used as much as it used to be. What this is doing is when we apply it to an enemy, we're applying minor vulnerability to them. However, since the Arcanists have come in, when they run Rune of Colourless Pool, this is also giving the minor vulnerability buff, and so we're not necessarily always going to run this. And if you do have an Arcanist in your group that's running Rune of Colourless Pool, you can drop this for something else. But other than that, I would recommend running it. It is a nice buff to have in your group. Our main burst heal is Polar Wind. This is a really nice skill. It's not only healing us, but it's also sending out sort of additional whirlwinds that are healing other people as well. And on top of that, it's got a nice sort of heal over time to it after the main burst heal. So overall, it's a really nice burst heal to run on a Warden. And then our main front bar taunt is Pierce Armor. Now we're using this to proc the Master Sword and board that we mentioned. And on top of that, this is our main front bar taunt, and it's also applying major and minor breach to the enemy that we use it on. So it's going to help with our DD's penetration as well. So overall, this is the best taunt that we're going to run. And then the ultimate on the front bar is Barrier, and you can use this, you can activate it. However, the main reason I'm running it, as always, is because I want to be making the most of this passive on support Magicka Aid, which just for having Barrier slotted, we're going to get an extra 10% mag recovery. So it's just free mag recovery. It makes sense to run that usually. For the back bar, I'm running the Elemental Blockade. This is what we're using to proc our Crusher enchant on our back bar. So whenever we put this down, the enemy that we apply it to, we reduce their resistances using that Crusher enchant. So we want to make sure that we keep this on the ground at all times. Razor Caltrops is the skill that we're going to be using for Major Breach in an area of effect. So whenever we have a big group of adds, we put this down on the ground and we're applying Major Breach to all of them, which is reducing their resistances. I do keep this on normally for boss fights as well because, well, first of all, we're using it to proc our powerful assault skill on the back bar. And secondly, often in boss fights you will have multiple adds joining the fight. It's not normally just a single boss and nothing else, so Caltrops you're going to be breaching everything all at the same time without you needing to use your front bar taunt on every single add. And then Expansive Frostcloak, this is a really big benefit of having a Warden tank. What this is doing is giving major resolve to you and your group. If you don't have a Warden healer, then having a Warden tank is extremely beneficial purely for this reason. Having an extra 6k resistances for everyone in your group is definitely going to reduce the amount of damage you're going to take quite significantly. So it is a really nice one to run, and this morph gives it a really big range, which means that you can generally reach everyone in your group throughout the fight. So a really nice skill to run, and it is our selfish source of major resolve as well. So we always want to run a major resolve skill on a tank. Bullnetch, you can also use the mag morph of this if you find that you need more mag sustain. However, on this particular build and setup, I prefer the stamina morph. Whenever we use this, it's going to remove negative effects from us, and it's also going to give us constant stamina recovery. So it is a nice one to run. The major brutality and sorcery we don't care too much about on a tank. We're not too worried about the damage that we're doing, but the recovery element and also removing the negative effects is very useful to have. Our range taunt is Frost Clench. This is going to apply major maim to whatever we use it to, and it's also going to allow us to taunt things from a distance, as opposed to our front bar taunt, which is only a melee range. So anything that's of a distance, you don't want to have to be running up to it, you want to be able to taunt them from a distance, and that's what this is going to do for us. And then finally, our back bar ultimate is Aggressive Horn. This is generally the ultimate that we're going to use. This is going to do two things. It's going to give major force to us and our group, and it's also going to increase our max resources as well. So that's generally the ultimate that we're going to be physically using. In terms of things that you can change out, Frost Clench you often don't need on add pulls, and if you want to, just to speed up add pulls a little bit, you can swap it for Pulsar, which is the morph of Impulse. What this is going to do is reduce the health of all of the adds that you apply it to. So when you're in a group of enemies, usually on trash packs, you can use Pulsar and it will reduce their health, just helping to speed up the add pulls and make them die a little bit quicker. So that's one skill that you can kind of swap out for add pulls if you don't want to run this statically. And then the other skill that you can swap out is Silver Leash as well. However, not on add pulls, but on bosses. So there's not always boss fights where you need to chain adds into yourself. And if that's the case, then you can drop this. You've got a number of different options that you can swap it for if you want to. For instance, if you need to snare adds in place, you can run Gripping Shards. If you need a projectile shield, you've got Shimmering Shield. Another kind of very nice one to mention that you could put in this place on boss fights is Resolving Vigor. This is going to give you minor resolve. So we already have major resolve from our expansive Frostcloak, but for minor resolve we can slot this, which is going to give us another 3k resistances. This will put us very close to the resistance cap. However, for dungeons, the extra resistances normally aren't needed, but maybe in some of the newer DLC ones you might want to run this just to give yourselves a little bit more protection. And it is also a nice heal over time as well. For the attributes, I am basically aiming for between 37 and 38k health on dungeons. So I've put just a number into health first of all to get to around 37-38k health. And then the rest I've put into a mixture of mag and stam in order to bring them both up quite high. So in this case I've got 26k stam and 24k mag. You will also get an additional 10% health from the maturation passive on top of this. Always do your attributes after you've got all your gear on. Make sure you've got all your glyphs on, make sure you've got your food on, and then do this as a last stage to setting up your tank so that you achieve the health, mag and stam that you're comfortable with. While we're on the character sheet, I'll just very quickly buff up with Expansive Frostcloak to show you the resistances. They're about 27 and 26k. For dungeon content, that's absolutely fine. We do have the Master's Sword and Board, which is going to give us some resistances every now and then as well. So we're going to be sitting close to sort of the 30k mark whenever that goes off, and that's absolutely fine for dungeon content. But again, if you want a little bit more protection on boss fights, you can slot Resolve and Vigor. And when we proc both of those, you'll see that we're sat at around about the 30k mark on both. And that will put you almost to the resistance cap when your Master Sword and Board goes off. So that will give you absolute full protection from a resistance point of view. And then for the recoveries, they're pretty healthy looking generally. Remember that although the stamina recovery looks a little bit lower, whenever we have the Bull Netch on, we're going to get constant stamina back. So we don't tend to struggle too much with sustain on this particular build. I find it actually one of the best sustain builds that I have for dungeons. And yeah, that's everything for the build. So thank you as always for watching the video, guys. I hope that this video has been useful. Definitely make the build and give it a go. The Warden is, as I say, one of my favourite dungeon tank builds to run. And yeah, please do leave a like on the video, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.